Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Bonus Points podcast. I'm Joe Garrett, as always been joined by Ollie Guy.
Hello.
Hello Ollie, and today we're going to be discussing my choice of game, and that is the 2011 release by Rockstar Games, at least published by them, LA Noire. I don't know why I dragged out saying the name of the game for so long, seeing as it's in the title. I was trying to think of a smart way to word it, but my when you kind of it feels like your brain's like a filing system, and sometimes you ask for a file, and you're used to it will have one ready before my mouth starts moving. But then my brain was just like.
I was when you introduced me, I was trying to think of a clever cop comeback, and I went for hello, which I guess is British cop, so I guess it kind of works, but
yeah. Oh dear. Anyway, so we are talking about LA Noire, but first, do you want to set up what LA Noire is for those that haven't played it, or as I like to call the game, La Noire?
La Noire. So La Noire is a 2011 action-adventure video game developed by Team Bondi and published by Rockstar Games. Set in 1947 Los Angeles, the game follows Detective Cole Phelps' rise among the ranks of the Los Angeles Police Department as he solves a range of cases across various bureaus. The game is played from a third-person perspective. The player may freely roam its interactive open world, primarily in a vehicle or on foot. As the game progresses, the player advances through several police department bureaus: patrol, traffic, homicide, vice, and arson. There we go.
And you mentioned previously that you started playing this, kind of back when it was released?
Yes, back when it released, I bought it pretty close to release, probably within the release week. And I played up to the case where they find the car at the railway yard for the first time. So maybe the third or fourth case. And I couldn't get a single interrogation question right. And I was like, what's wrong with this game? And I traded it in. So that was my experience.
But then you're playing the re-release in some form, I assume, this time round?
I did. I played the Xbox. I think it was the One X version, maybe 4K, 30 FPS.
Yeah, so the remake
lovely.
was kind of Xbox One, PS4 generation, and then also Switch, because Switch is every generation now because it won't die. So I played on the Switch, which will become important a little bit later on when we discuss that version. But it is worth really mentioning because they did make changes, especially to do with the interrogations. Even just some of the wording is different. Maybe better, maybe worse. I guess we'll kind of get into that a little bit later on, but it's worth kind of knowing what version we played. But I should also say, this is my first time playing it. I never played it back in the day. I was always I always wanted to. I remember watching loads of the behind the scenes and them showing the tech and the way the faces works and how accurately they recreated the city. And so I'd always watch those and be I want to play that. But, back in the day, we didn't have the freedom to play every game we wanted, so I ended up not buying it. So I guess the reason I chose to play it now was just because I've always been curious. I didn't expect it to blow me away, because I remember even when it was released, it kind of got mixed to positive reviews, I guess the way I would describe it. But it's always been a curiosity for me, and I thought, well, the bonus points is the best place to feed my curiosities.
Oh yeah, of course. And also we've done a lot of kind of detective games, haven't we?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, but we've done Disco Elysium, Phoenix Wright, this. There's probably something else as well.
Frog Detective, I can see right over your shoulder.
Oh yeah, of course, there he is. Yeah, another one. Yeah, maybe that's something about that style of game we just like doing on here. It's because we want to recapture that Disco Elysium vibe.
I think it's just a coincidence, to be honest. I didn't even realize that there's been a link until you said it. But we have really hurt ourselves by doing Disco Elysium first out of all of the detective games.
I'd say so, yes. I was going to say the Xbox version that I played was solid. It was not very buggy, good, no frame rate stutters, nothing like that. It was good. I'd say if you're going to play it, probably the PS4 or the Xbox version, because it is.
You would hope so, because as you said, it was released in 2011, so that was kind of PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 generation. So and the re-releases graphically, kind of one of the things people said is they didn't change much. It's a re-release rather than a remake. I'm sure they upscaled it, and as I said, they made a few kind of changes to some of the mechanics, but really it's oh, if you're going to play the game, you might as well play this one now. Seemed to be one of those. So yeah, you gave the summary. Do you want to kind of just talk through so the game's split up into cases, and so there is kind of a bit of an overarching story that we'll get into a little bit later on, but mostly you could think of a case as a level, and there's kind of a framework and a structure to each of those cases. Do you want to kind of talk through kind of how each of those cases tend to play out?
Yeah, so, well, first of all, let's just quickly say we played up to a point, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Which was picked by you. I want to stress that you picked this point, didn't you? To stop.
Yeah, I realised I wasn't going to finish it. And just to be clear, the format of the show is we play a game for 2 weeks and discuss it. We sometimes complete the game, and sometimes we play World of Warcraft, and we see less than a percentage of the game. This is a case where it's a long game, so yeah, we didn't finish playing the game.
Yeah, so we played up to the end of the homicide desk, the kind of transitional period to the vice desk. Yeah, which is the third zone, area, world. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's a third big step. But interestingly, the plot summary on Wikipedia is 5 paragraphs. The first paragraph is the bit we played, and then the other 4 paragraphs is the last half of the game.
Oh, really? Did we miss out on all the juicy stuff?
So basically, the main overarching plot and the main stuff that happens all happens exactly where we stopped.
Okay, I mean, to be fair, that doesn't surprise me, because especially very early on, when you're kind of doing like the traffic stuff, I was amazed at how much the story was, you do a case, that case ends, and it's never mentioned again. Like, I assumed there would be more of a through line early on, and even from I did a few I did 2 vice cases, because I just wanted to be like, oh, is there a change coming up? And it did seem like there was starting to weave more of a through line between the cases, but up until then, it's very much like someone could play one of the cases at random and probably not lose out on too much for the kind of, at least for the first kind of few departments in the police force. Yeah,
but I'll just quickly explain how the game plays for anyone that's not played it. It's basically like a third-person game where you have a few different gameplay styles that kind of link together. So you have, you drive to a crime scene. This is pretty much how they all play out. You drive to a crime scene, you investigate the crime scene, which involves walking around, picking up objects, looking at them, and deciding whether or not they're relevant. Then you tend to go to someone's house or a bar where you might find them. You interrogate them, which is another little play style where you kind of ask them questions, and then you have to decide whether or not you want to be a good cop or a bad cop or accuse, which is as clear as I'm saying it. From there, you tend to try and link up your evidence and stuff like that just by talking to different people. And eventually you end up in the police station with this person and you interrogate them again or accuse them and arrest them, charge them. There's also another little gameplay style in there, which is chasing people, which is all these gameplay styles have their own control schemes and their own things. But yeah, the other one is chasing, which you kind of just run after them until they get stuck somewhere.
Yeah, well, there's chasing, then there's also kind of vehicle chasing where you kind of got to burnout style, knock them off the road or let your partner shoot them, and then also just shootouts as well. I'd kind of say is another kind of category with it, so which has had a big impact on Ollie, as you can see. As he completely forgot that you can shoot.
So because you also get phone calls, you get radio calls that are oh yeah, you need to come and help us out at this, as you're playing. And I only did 3 of those, and one of them was a shootout, but the other 2 weren't. I did a shootout at a bank that was quite good.
Yeah, there's a few in the main mission. Oh, then also fighting, I guess, as well. Hand-to-hand combat is very loosely scattered. It's scattered just enough that I always forget the controls by the time it pops up again.
Same. I got battered. I ended up wearing the suit that makes you a better fighter because I was I'm just going to lose if I don't wear this. So
yeah, it's fine. I think you have to press left trigger to lock on first, and it'd been so long between fights I'd forgot that. And so I was pressing every button and just dying every time. And I was also I was traveling and didn't have access to internet, so I couldn't even look it up. And it didn't say anywhere, so I was just getting beaten up again and again until I worked it out.
Yeah. Yeah, so it has that hand-to-hand combat too. But that's pretty much how it works. And then the main hook of the game is that it has these face-scanned people that they had like 32 cameras filming people's faces, and then they kind of just project them onto the 3D model of the person speaking, and like it's a mixed bag. Sometimes it looks pretty good, and sometimes it can look like quite weird. But that was the main hook when it came out. That was like, oh yeah, it's getting recognized at Cannes Film Festival and stuff because this is so revolutionary. We've never seen anything like it. No, so that's pretty much everything.
Yeah, no, it's just took like the face scan stuff. Like, I think it's very easy to look at it now and be like, oh, uncanny vanny, it's super weird. But like, if you compare it to other games coming out in 2011, and even before then, like this game had a very long like development cycle, about 7 years. So they announced it quite a long time before it was released. So like I remember the first time seeing those trailers and being like, oh my God, games could never look better. Like I was blown away. And also with the trailers, obviously they're picking the times when it works well. And there's a lot of times, like if you look closely, you can see like their necks are always a bit weird. You can kind of really see where they transition
I really
from it being
just couldn't stop looking at their necks. Like, and their necks are like stippling, like bubbling.
It's super weird. And then also something else I noticed is because they like if you look at them behind the scenes, they're in like a really like light room because basically they can't have any shadows on their face at all. It needs to be completely evenly lit so shadows can match up with how it is in the game. So they're shining really bright lights in their eyes, so everyone just looks like they're squinting, like everyone's like this the whole time. Once you're conscious that the actor has a bright light shining in their eyes, you can just see it. Like even like the dark scenes, they're like, yeah, no, I think they took the body round back. They're like really crazy. Squinting. It's so funny.
I think the other thing is playing the modern version is I don't know about the Switch, but because on the Xbox everything was at 4K, their suits were really high resolution, like the graphics were really pointy, but the faces still looked like the ones from back in the day, so their faces were quite blurry.
Oh, okay.
So that was also quite noticeable, especially hair. Like hair would kind of merge into the skin, but then the hat would be like super high definition. So,
okay,
but I mean,
that was less. It looked more consistent, I think, on the Switch. I didn't really notice that, but I think it does, like. It is sometimes weird and jarring, but I think it serves its purpose. It's got to the point where if someone isn't readable in terms of if they're lying, it's down to the actor's performance rather than the tech. Like you can see what the actor performed well enough, whereas if they did a good enough performance to like do a subtle tell that they're lying, like it's down to you to pick it up or like the actor's performance rather than the tech. I think it did its intention, I would say so.
Yeah, I think so. I also think the characters are also really well realized. Like the voice acting is good, all the performances are good. They look fine. They probably looked great back in the day. I don't remember, but they look fine now. Like all that stuff's
and
good.
There's a lot of it. There's 400 actors in this game, and over 20 hours of voice work has gone into it. Like it's a key component of this game is talking to people.
You've done your research. I'm very impressed. I had that written out. I was like, I'm going to blow him away with that, but you already knew it.
I'm sorry, I'm stealing that.
They had it must be licensing hell for them to get this game put out every time. If there's 400 actors whose faces are involved.
Oh no, if you're getting an actor for this, they sign away their likeness rights. You wouldn't, like you would have that written in. I'm sure for like things like music and stuff is probably more of a headache, but for any project like this, you would write in, you would unless you're getting like Brad Pitt and they can like have a bit more, they can kind of fight that back a little bit more. Like for this sort of, you'd assume that they've paid to use their license for this project.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't recognize any of the actors at all. I'm sure they all have they're all great. They did a great job. I'm sure they have great careers, but I didn't.
Yeah, the lead's from like Mad Men or something, isn't he? Right? Isn't that kind of?
I don't know. I don't know where the actors are from. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he's from Mad Men, which is weirdly kind of set in like a similar time period, maybe
he's
50s
got that
or
face.
something. Yeah, let you keep talking. Let me see if I can back that up.
Okay, well, let me also tell you that they didn't just spend time making the actors look accurate. They also spent a lot of time making the city look accurate. Do you know much about the accuracy of the city, Joe?
I know how many pictures they used. They used 180,000 pictures of LA to reconstruct it.
They luckily had access to something called the Robert Spence Collection, which was a guy who used to fly a biplane around. and take pictures of people's houses, like artistic pictures of their houses or offices. So rather than it being like a military photo that's just like a top-down picture of LA, they would take like, at an angle so you could see like the traffic and the people, and they had access to all these photos. So that's kind of how they managed to recreate LA to a really high degree of accuracy. I found out the actual area they're covering in real life is 8.5 miles and the in-game size is 8 miles. So they're like close to getting it almost 100% right.
Yeah, because that's in like comparison to most games that reconstruct, like if you look at GTA, their reconstruction of LA, for example, more on that next podcast, where everything's super scaled down, like intentionally, whereas this is kind of much more of like an accurate recreation of kind of how it would have looked. Just very quickly before you carry on, just because it will annoy people, it's Aaron Staton, and he is from Mad Men, just to confirm
right,
that.
Okay. He did a good job. He did a good job as Cole Phelps. But the other thing on the city is that although it is the right size and the right layout, the time is compressed. So they have stuff from like 1912 standing next to stuff from 1940. If they're just like, oh, that's the interesting bit of that road, we'll include it. So there's a few things like that. But it was a good job. I don't know if it makes a good video game city, but it is very accurate at least. I
mean, it looks. I'm like, so let me start my. So on the Switch, visually and frame rate is like super compromised. Like the pop-in is awful on this game when you're driving around. And it did kind of make me really regret not playing it on a home console, because the thing is, the city looks amazing, but I think at least on Switch, the way to appreciate it is by walking around on foot. Because when you're driving past things, one, you're just driving past, so you move past quickly, and then also because of the technical limitations, like you only really see things in detail when they're close. But there was one moment where I left like a diner, and I was in like kind of like one of the downtown main streets, and I was looking around, and the level of detail and how unique each building was, and like how interesting the architecture is, all of like the different billboards and adverts for like these products that really kind of matched the style of the era. Like it was like I just kind of stood there for a bit and looked around. I was like, this is cool. Like I wish I was playing a game that made the most of this environment and wasn't just about to get in my car and blast past it to go inside someone's house and talk to someone. Like, because it is like a real achievement, especially for, when the game was released.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think the technical side of it and the achievement of the accuracy is way more interesting than the actual game. Like far more interesting. I will say it's just a very small nitpick on the Xbox, because there is no draw distance. You can just see it does look quite empty. It doesn't ever fade away or get blurry. It's like you can just see down long roads. It's like, oh, there's actually not that many cars or people around.
Oh, I recommend the Switch version if you want that. That's great for that. It's like Silent Hill LA. That's what I played.
But yeah, I mean, what's your top level? What did you think of this game?
So, like you, I was impressed technically by some of the aspects. I liked the performances and stuff. I did not enjoy almost any aspect of playing this game. So
any aspect, none of it.
So the driving is, if you're just driving to a place, it's boring because, sorry, Americans, your cities are boring to drive in because it's just right angles. I agree. The driving was never fun. The shootouts were not very good. Like there's like no auto aim or anything.
The controls are bad, aren't they?
It's too stiff.
It's so confusing. Like
yeah,
what
like
it was
obviously in the cover system time, and it was a bad cover system, so that wasn't good. The hand-to-hand combat was basically might as well just been cut. The chase sequences were a nothingness thing. There's no, you just kind of run towards and then the interrogation thing, the whole system, I think, while interesting, I think it was just completely flawed and just felt a little bit too random and confusing, and I never really kind of got a handle on it. And then on top of that, I think even more damning than any of those individual aspects is just like the tone and the spirit of this game. I realize it's trying to be of kind of its era and culture has changed somewhat, but it just felt like a nasty game with nasty people in a horrible world. And even like Cole Phelps, who was kind of meant to be like, but I'm the good one, is he kind of felt like really angry. Like I literally made a note of just like, can everyone stop shouting? Because everyone's shouting and demanding and stuff. And it just made it like I didn't want to be in that world with any of those characters because it just felt horrible.
Yeah, okay. I agree with you 100% on everything you just said. I agree with the nastiness. Like, on one hand, I respect Team Bondi for making a game about this horrible police force and these horrible people and sticking to their guns. But on the other hand, the fact that these people live with zero consequence, that's what really bummed me out. It's like, there's a case quite early on where a guy gets stabbed. Well, you find a guy who's been hit by a car and he dies. And you're like, okay, the driver killed him. Obviously, we catch the driver, and then Phelps and the guy you're with are like, hey man, like, you killed that guy, you're scum, like, you need to go to prison, like, they're gonna love you in prison, they're gonna pass you around, blah, blah, blah. And then it turns out the guy who got killed actually got stabbed and then fell into the road. So the guy that they arrested didn't actually do it. And they do catch the guy that did do it, the criminal, but they never go like, oh, we probably shouldn't have thrown that guy in prison for no reason. And I feel like the main reason I dislike this game is Cole Phelps is probably the most unlikable character we've had on this. Like, he will do anything to climb the social ladder and the ranking in his police force. Like, he is like the worst kind of corporate like bootlicker. Like, he is the worst person, and people try and ask him about his life and make jokes of him, and he's just like, shut up and focus on the job. And it's like, mate, what? Who? Like, you don't even have a life outside of it. I've never even seen you at home. Like, you're just the worst
there was
person.
the first time there was a mention. He mentioned something about his kid. And it's like, you have a kid?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. He's like, oh, I'm married. He's like, what?
Yeah.
And then you see war flashbacks of him, and he's like punching prisoners of war, and it's like, you know, on one hand, I'm like, okay, I respect what you're doing. You're really going for it. But on the other hand, it's like, man, I hope you get your comeuppance because you are an awful person.
I really feel like the game, like they obviously were trying to paint like the corrupt police force. Like, that was obviously an intention and a plot point, is like they're all corrupt and all they care about is like their image and money and getting drunk on the job and whatever.
Yeah.
And like, we hate women and blah 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 blah. Like that's like a plot point. But then it feels like they almost want Phelps to be like the good guy, or at least like he's the one who cares about getting results. Because there's times, because you have different partners throughout the game, and they always like try to make the partner look worse than him, and they're saying like, we should just like get off early, or like, oh, we can arrest them. They might not be them, but oh well, they're probably going to do another crime later anyway. And then like Cole Phelps is kind of like, no, we need to be good. Like, don't you have any conscience about putting an innocent person in jail? And they sort of set him up as like, no, he's the good cop and he actually cares. But then, as you say, in the next scene, he'll do something like your example, and you're like, wait, which is it? Like, are we meant to be the good guy that's stuck in the bad system, or are we part of the bad system? But like every now and then, like, we kind of decide to think about doing things properly.
Yeah, and it is literally like the only character I can think of in the game that isn't awful is the police captain, and even he has his moments where he's like, oh, like the Irish guy. Yeah. Like, he's quite nice, but even he has like awful things to say. But like the main problem, the main reason I'm so happy you said stop playing at Homicide is the guy you're paired with, Rusty, is like just the most awful man. He literally is just Trump. Like, he talks like him, he looks like him, he says things like him. I took a screenshot of a chat log because you can read back your logs. I could not believe what he said, right? So this woman gets murdered. Also, all the women in the game are murdered and left naked, which is just like, it's really gross, and I don't know why they're all naked. But this woman works for a B&B, and you go to the B&B, and there's a really old lady working there. She's the manager, and you question her. She's like 80 or something. Bearing in mind that her like only employee has just been murdered, Cole Phelps says, "Do you have any idea who might have wanted to hurt Mrs. Maldonado, who is the victim?" And then the lady, Barbara, says, "That rat of a husband, Angel, she was serving him divorce papers." And then Rusty, to an 85-year-old woman, says, "If I killed every wife that served me papers, I'd be a mass murderer." It's like, what is wrong with you? Like, you are horrible. You are awful. Like, I do not want to play the game and hang out with this guy who's just like the most vile, disgusting man. And then so many times they were like, this woman's been killed, and Rusty would be like, "Oh yeah, it's just whoever's been pegging her would be the one that killed her." And like, you really want him to be wrong, but it turns out like 5 times in a row that he's right. And ultimately he's wrong, but even Cole Phelps is like, yep, that's women for you. Like, they get what's coming to them. And it's like, oh my God, this is horrible. horrible.
And like we realize, because I feel like some people might be thinking this like, well, this is like set in the 40s and that's what it was like then, and they're trying to be. It's like we get that, but this is also like a video game that like they're trying to have like fun shootouts and punch outs and thing. You know, they're always trying to have their cake and eat it too. It just means that maybe there's elements of. I mean. Not as extreme as what the game is. There might be elephants. Elephants.
There might be elephants.
There might be elephants.
I didn't get that far.
There might be elements that are true to life for that time period, but that still doesn't mean that I want to play this game or enjoy this game.
I think if Cole was climbing the ladder and he was doing it by the book, even if he was a bit boring. But he was doing it by the book and he rose to the top ranks of the police force. It'd be a very different experience to, I'm going to do anything I can to pin this crime.
He's trying to fight, you see him break. He starts off being like, no, I'm going to do good, protect and serve, and I'm here to help the community. And you see that will like gradually go as he kind of gets corrupted by the system, or he realizes the system's, he can't change it, and so he ends up following the line, but there's glimpses of what he used to be like. There's an interesting story to be said around that, but he from the time that we play doesn't really go through any progression or change of opinions. He kind of stays in this sort of grey middle ground.
Yeah, he's literally like RoboCop. Like, he's literally like, there's nothing to him except for like rage. And like, I guess, well, I mean, I can tell you what happened after we stopped playing. I got a summary of the plot if you want to hear where it goes.
Well, just on that, like, I've kind of a few more examples. So one of the things is like, it's not even down to your decisions. This is from the like, often, like, I find like, as you say, you go into a bar and you're just talking to the bartender about who's been there. Like, they're not even a suspect. And he'll just come in like shouting at them and goes like LAPD, like, we need to find the, like, and I'm just like, just chill out. And then there was one time, so we kind of go into the dialogue system a bit later, but basically because it's like good cop, bad cop, accuse, if you just think someone's lying, you kind of have to end up saying bad cop. In fact, so in the original game, it used to be called, let me find what it was called. So in the remake, it's called Good Cop, Bad Cop, Accuse. It used to be called Truth, Lie, Accuse. So it used to be, do you think they're telling the truth? Do you think they're lying? Okay. Or if you accuse them is where you would match that up with a bit of evidence or a clue to basically prove that they're lying, kind of like Phoenix Wright. But people didn't like that because they would think, oh, someone's lying, and they think they're going to go like, I think you're lying, but they go like, I'm going to kill you, and they suddenly like go angry. So they changed it to bad cop. But then that also means they've kind of taken away that option for just thinking that someone's lying. So because I knew that, I kind of in my head had like good cop / truth, bad cop / lie. So I had both.
Right,
and so there was this bit where there's this woman, I think their husband had died or something, and I could tell that they were lying because they said something, and then the character was like looking away and like, ooh, looking really nervous. And so I was like, okay then. So I wanted to say that they're lying, but then Cole Phelps just said like, do you want your baby to be born in jail? And I was like, what? This widowed woman, like pregnant woman. I was like, no. Like, there needs to be kind of something else in like a middle ground between the two.
Yeah, I would have had truth, doubt, contradiction would have been my three, because for ages I thought accuse meant accuse them of doing the crime.
Exactly.
So I didn't even use accuse for like a long time. And then I kind of realized, it's to like present evidence, which I didn't know. I only knew when I did the intuition to like remove the wrong option and accuse stayed there. And I was like, there's no way they did it. So like, that's how I kind of figured out. But that whole system just doesn't work. Like in one case, I got 13 out of 14 questions right. And in the next case, I got 3 out of 11. Because it's just like random almost.
And the fact that they tell you, like, it'll be like, you got 4 out of 6 right in this conversation. And it's like, well, one, you're kind of spoiling whether they did it or not. But also like, what do you mean? And like, and it never affects anything really. Like it might change like a scene, but like, it's not like, oh, that guilty person got away because you didn't accuse them. Like the story's going to play out the way the story plays out. And then at the end, they'll give you a little ranking at the end and sort of say how well you did.
Yeah, I wrote down in my notes that I feel like I wasn't really solving crimes. I was just kind of standing near them and they were kind of just wrapping themselves up. And then also sometimes because of the way that you can choose which order to go to crime scenes and who to speak to people. Sometimes you'll wrap the case up early, which is quite cool that you can do that. But then they would reference stuff that you never did, and they talk about things that never happened, and you're like, what? Like one guy I arrested, and then they were like, yeah, and he's a child molester, and I was like, is he? Like, I thought he was just a murderer. Like, I didn't know he did that, but the way they're all saying it was like, I knew. So just the whole interrogation system and investigation system is like not good. I will say the soundtrack is really good, and it did make walking around the crime scenes quite cool, especially at the beginning when I didn't realize that I was going to not enjoy the game as much as I didn't. And like you've got that like double bass playing and you're like picking up things. I was like, oh, this is like awesome. But then it does just kind of fall apart after you do it a couple of times and realize, especially the amount of things that are nothing to do with the crime.
Yeah. But you never know that, because like you don't know until you pick up. So you're constantly just like going into someone's house and you're like, oh, like just picking up like their bottles and just being like, and then you'll go like,
yeah,
this isn't pertinent to the case or whatever.
Circumstantial.
Yeah. Yeah, and then on that music for the case, I do like the fact that it's like once you've found all the clues, the music stops. Is kind of a nice, rather than having a pop up or something. Although there is one scene which messed me up for ages, where it's glitched and the music continues even when you have found all of the clues. No, it's not. It's the opposite. It's the music stops when you haven't found all the clues. And so I got to a point where I was like, okay, I found all the clues in this house or whatever. I don't need to worry about it. But there was another clue somewhere and I got stuck. And that was the one time I had to look it up. And I saw everyone moaning about the fact that it's bugged because the music stops too early.
I did have an audio bug. For some reason, every time I spoke to the police captain, I could always hear birds flapping their wings. And I don't know why that was all the way through the game. Every time I was in his office, I could hear birds like taking off and landing over and over again.
He recorded from home. He lives in a coop.
Yeah. The other thing with the cases is that like they wrap up really fast. Like you solve them, and then they'll show the guy that you've accused being like, and it just ends. And it's like, oh, is that it? Like, and then it might say at the end like, the other person you left in jail might have appreciated being let out. But it's just like the same thing where these people, they have no consequence. They almost don't even affect what's going on around them. They just kind of live through it and they're just nasty about it.
There was of those like end messages, one that I quite like. There's a scene where, it was the one you mentioned earlier, where it looks like someone's been run over, but it turns out they've been stabbed. And there's a knife you can find, but you don't have to find it. Like you kind of have like marked out, this is your crime scene. But I wandered for a bit and I found like a knife in like a bin or something. But I found it kind of before it was kind of intended. But it's nice that I actually could find it there. And there's like it basically changed the case, like at least the route I went through the case, because I could immediately use that as a clue. And at the end, it's like, I got a little message saying like, you found like the knife early. And like, so it's cool that they don't artificially gate that, or like the knife's there, but you can't pick it up and it adjusts.
Yeah, not in every case though, because the final BD murder case where you have to go to the different locations and, I got the first poem. I got maybe it was the first poem, and it says about a domed roof and like a garden with a fountain. And for some reason, I know in my mind the Getty Center in LA has a domed roof and it has a fountain in the garden. So I was like, oh, it's an art gallery. So I went on the map, found an art gallery, drove there, has a hedge maze. So I ran through the whole maze, just nothing there. I get to the middle of the maze and he's like, oh, I need to go to the Library of Records. And I was like, what? Okay, so I went there. So I did all that, and then about 3 later, I have to go back to the art gallery and do the maze again. And the maze is like, the camera is like, you can't even see where you're going. And I was like, it's so annoying. I was just here. Like, how did the stuff get here?
You know when like they do game tests and like they have like a kind of like webcam footage, like to see like the emotion of the player when they're playing. I wish I could see your face as you found out you had to go back to that maze and do it again. Like, what expression were you pulling?
Oh my god, mate! Anytime you had to drive anywhere, to be honest with you, I was just like, you can drive.
Yeah, you can skip the drive. Yeah, which is quite, because at first I did kind of enjoy driving, and like the driving controls like feel fine. Like it is a little bit, like it feels like you're driving an old car. They have a really wide turning circle, quite slow acceleration, and even when you brake, they kind of like creak, which is like quite nice. So like the driving feels fine, but as you said, the city's so big, sometimes you're driving large distances and it's just mostly uninteresting because it's a lot of, just so like when you're looking at the mini-map, like so much just like driving down the big straight line until the line to my left or right lines up with the objective marker. And then, it's like focusing in on like a grid. You just go do the x-axis and then the y-axis and then you're there. And like, that's kind of what the driving is. And sometimes there's a confusing bit where there was like a hill with a dead end, by someone. So I bet you know the bit I'm talking about, like that residential street where like,
just jump off. They're like, watch it, Cole. It's like, I've just jumped off a 60-foot. With the driving, there was actually two quite cool things in this game that I wish other games did take. One of them is when you're driving, you can ask your partner for directions, which is... Did you ever do that?
No, I didn't know you could do that.
Press the square button equivalent on the Switch and your partner will be like, take the next left or keep going. And that's pretty cool because you don't have to worry about a line then, you just ask them where to go. And the other thing is, which I can't believe, I was telling Bridie about this, she said that's the most boring thing I've ever heard. But the way you scale up the side of buildings, if it changes from like a ladder to a drain pipe to a fire escape, and you just hold up and he like runs around himself. I was like, God, more games need that. The amount of times I've got stuck on stairs or gone to the wrong side of a ladder is unbelievable. So those were the two things that I was like, modern games could learn from this.
I could add a few. I do have positives.
Yep.
I think the whole like notebook works really well. So like all of like the in-game menus are your notebooks. If you're looking at clues or like looking up like kind of profiles for characters, you're kind of turning a book. And then also if you're like marking a location you want to go to, you kind of look at the location like on your notebook is the way you set it, rather than bringing up like some like undiegetic like UI element, whatever. It's all in world. And then even like looking at clues, say it's like, oh, I got to look through the record book of this company and like I got to see if there's anything that stands out, and like his finger will be going over it and he kind of like taps on like the one. Like the fact, like I love it when they kind of try and do as much of that stuff in game, in universe. Like I love it when like in a game, like if you look at your map, it's like a physical map you're looking at and it can have waypoints and stuff on it, but I always like that. And I think a lot of those details are done really nicely.
Yeah, the when you speak to someone that has like that really high resolution, well, it's not probably maybe not on the Switch, but it's like a drawing of them on the left page. Yeah. And then when it cuts to Cole sitting at the table and his notebook's on the table, the drawing is there. And it's like, did he actually draw that? He must have sat there like for ages drawing this.
He's only just met them.
Yeah. I did find it weird though that despite it being open world, and as you're saying about the notebook, changing your costume is just done, or changing your outfit, I guess, not costume, it's just done in the pause menu. And there is no like house that I kept like unlocking cars and I'd be like, I don't know where they are.
Yeah, I had that because I found like a hidden car and it was like a really cool car. I'm like, oh, nice, I can drive around this for the rest of the game. Then I drove to like where I needed to go. Then in the cutscene, it just magically turned to the other car and I never saw that other car that I just found again. So I don't really know how that worked.
That also happened to me a few times because my outfit I was wearing was the boxing outfit. So it has a white hat. And quite often in cutscenes, the hat would change to black. And then the camera would change and it would change back to white again. Basically, anytime we took the hat off and dusted it or did something, it would change to black. And then it would go back to white.
I wonder if that was added in with the remakes, those sorts of things, like changing outfits and stuff.
Maybe. Possibly, yeah. I could see them adding that in the remake. But yeah, I don't know. I think maybe if you had a house or a home life, or even if you just went home and there was someone there that was like, oh, hi, honey. Like, it would do a lot for Cole to ground him and also give you something to do in the world other than driving to your
even
next
if it like
crime.
So each case starts with like the briefing room and them kind of giving a very brief summary of kind of what the case is. Like even if that maybe started with a home life scene and then you drive to the office or something, just to kind of give that little bit of flavor.
Yeah, because I mean you have no reprieve. You're spending every moment in this game with these horrible people that there's no time away from them. You're always with someone that's like, yeah, I'd smack a broad if she stepped out of line. It's like, oh my God.
It'd be quite cool to see like Cole at home being like, okay, gotta have another day in the office with these people or something, or like go get him here. I'm going to go and do my best to get this promotion. Like some sort of, like, what is he, after everything he goes through, what is he going home and like telling his wife about, or what is his relationship like with his child? Like I would be interested to see that, because he is quite blank as a character otherwise.
Well, I can give you this quick summary of what happened after we stopped playing, if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, please do.
So spoilers for the rest of the game after the homicide desk. So Phelps investigates stolen military morphine only to be ensnared in a web of corruption involving prominent figures. Despite his efforts, he's disgraced and demoted. Private investigator Kelso, Phelps' former war buddy, uncovers a scheme involving fraudulent land development and arson. So you get to play as Kelso, who's not a cop. So he doesn't have to abide by the rules that Phelps has to abide by. They team up, exposing the syndicate and rescuing a kidnapped woman, who, by the way, Phelps has an affair on his wife with. So I'm assuming you never see the wife, but you do see this affair. In the tragic finale, Phelps dies, but his actions are vindicated at his funeral, revealing the truth about his character and the extent of the corruption he fought against. So it does have a plot after we stop playing. There is something. There is something there, but we didn't... I mean, to be fair, I did buy it back in the day, but I didn't want to play anymore. Like, I was done. And not just us. In the Discord, Bonus Points Discord, Nick played along with us, and he said, I was super heavily invested until I got to the Vice desk when I felt like the game lost all its momentum. So I think probably a lot of people are stopping where we stopped.
Yeah, and I do remember at the time, and I watched some and read some since, like the reviews didn't like the ending. Like they said it was like a weaker ending. But I will say, like, I played a lot more than I wanted to get to this point. I was playing it to make sure I was informed enough to do this podcast was the reason I played for us, because I played for, was it probably about like 12 hours, maybe a bit more to get 12, to here. So it's not like we only dipped our toes in. Like we spent a lot of time in 1940s LA.
We did. And I think we stopped at a good place. But speaking of time, would you like to hear about the development hell this game went through?
Love to.
So Team Bondi, who made this game, it wasn't made by Rockstar, they published it. Team Bondi developed it. And then after this, they tried to make another game called Whore of the Orient, which got cancelled. And basically the reason it got cancelled, because I've done a lot of research on this, but obviously I've interpreted it and it's coming out. Do your own research. You want to know the proper facts. As far as I can tell, it got cancelled because the guy that owns the company and directed LA Noire is so awful, nobody wants to work with him.
Yeah, so allegedly.
Just
keep saying allegedly. Before. If we learn anything from Haley.
Yeah.
Say allegedly before and after every sentence.
He's so awful, people didn't want to work with him. To contextualize how awful this guy allegedly is, when Red Dead 2 came out, a lot of people complained about Rockstar's working conditions and crunch and stuff like that, allegedly. Said that it was a very bad place to work. Rockstar thought Team Bondi was so bad, they cut ties with them. So it must be pretty awful. Have you heard of the Bondi 11?
No.
So these are 11 people that came forward and created a website about what it's like to work at Team Bondi, because it was that bad.
Okay, and this is separate from the credits thing. I don't know if that's
they
the
also
thing
did that. They did that too. They did that.
Okay.
Same group. The reason they did this, their sole objective was they could not bear the thought of McNamara succeeding. So McNamara is the owner of Team Bondi and the director of the game. And he is said to be, and I quote, I've written this down verbatim, the angriest person I've ever met. So apparently this guy was just absolutely horrible to his staff. He said to them, okay, I want you to work 9 a.m. to 7 p.m, Monday to Saturday. So that's obviously a longer working week than usual for the final 6 months of the game. It's crunch. This final 6 months went on for 4 years and none of the people involved ever got paid that overtime for the whole. So he was like, if you leave, I won't pay you the overtime. But then he never paid them anyway. Some workers were doing 110 hours a week trying to get this money. Like obviously trying to get this game out, get this money, get paid, get on with it. So another quote here that said, so this is Brendan McNamara, he's the director. So this person said about them, when Brendan came on board, it became clear that he was a huge bully with no talent, vision, or management skill, but he really knew how to intimidate. And I was like, That's like horrible. Like it sounds like we're talking about people in the game. Like
I know. I'm literally just thinking,
It's that bad.
he sounds like the perfect person to make a game of this tone.
Right. So the last thing I've got on this is that he did an interview with Eurogamer, which obviously is a big respected outlet. The headline of the interview is, "I'd rather people just ring me up and tell me to F off." And then the byline is, "The controversial LA Noire developer faces the music in this frank new interview." So I read the whole thing. It was super long, but I've condensed it down. Basically, McNamara basically said through the whole thing, "I can do what I want because it's my game." And that was all he said on it. And since then, he's not managed to make another game or anything else.
I did see that he said, so he used to work at Team Soho, the people who did like the Getaway games.
Yes,
so
he was director of the Getaway. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, so that's kind of where he came from. And I did see, like, from when all these allegations kind of came out, like his argument, and I always think this is the worst argument anyone ever makes, is like, he basically pointed to other people, like I can't remember who, but like Steve Jobs, and saying like,
yes,
like they are also known to like be really bad bosses, but people don't vilify them as much.
Yes.
And it's like, and then saying, "Oh, but we've got better since we released LA Noire, which you worked on for 7 years." You know, like
7
it's sort
years,
of,
yeah.
and your new game isn't in crunch yet, so you can't even use that as like a case study. But when it's like, you know, it's like when someone is like, say someone steals something, and they're like, "You stole that," and they're like, "Well, they stole it too," and it's like as if that means anything. Like it does. Yeah, it does sound awful. And then that credits thing was basically a bunch of the people, mostly people who kind of got let off early, or like contractors just didn't get credited in the game or like in the manual or anything. So they started like a website, which was like lanoircredits.com or something, just like so they could self-credit each other, the people that worked on this game. Like imagine working for this person who allegedly isn't the best.
It's all allegedly. It's all allegedly.
Yeah, and then like, you know, doing all of this overtime that you didn't get paid for, and then you don't get credited in the thing that gets released. Like, imagine how like horrible that would feel.
Mate, imagine doing a 110-hour week. A normal work week's like what, 35, 38 hours? Yeah, 110 is 3 times that. 3 times that.
I mean, it's like all your time, basically. That's all your time is doing this. And so the game was originally going to be published by Sony. I don't know if you came across that early days. No. And then, it was announced as a PlayStation 3 exclusive for Sony. And then ended up Rockstar came on. And then, as you say, Rockstar parted ways with them. And then they were shortly, kind of the same year that LA Noire released, Team Bondi got kind of disbanded.
I think I also read, which I don't have written down, so I'm paraphrasing, that Rockstar pretty much saved the game. They like just poured money into it until it got finished. They did all the marketing for it themselves. They kind of added quite a lot of the open worldiness, like the open worldy elements of it were obviously quite similar to GTA. There was also when you're playing as Cole, you could also get a criminal record, but they ended up scrapping all that because they were like, it doesn't match the tone of the game. But you could also have like a wanted system of stars and stuff. It was like that close to GTA.
That'd be weird.
yeah. But
it's worth mentioning just with all of this that the game was a hit. The game was a success.
Was it?
Like, yeah. Like, so by 2017, it sold over 7.5 million copies. So it was like,
I find that
it was,
surprising.
and so obviously this is not counting re-release and stuff. So the game within its first week, it sold over 2 million copies. Like the game was a hit. So like this all really makes it sound like this was a big failure in every regard. But it reviewed, as I said, like okay, and it sold a lot of copies. So by a lot of people's, you know, outsiders metrics, this game was a success, and people are still talking about it. The fact that the re-release was kind of relevant, like, so it wasn't a failure on all fronts.
Okay, I find that interesting. I didn't realize it was a hit. I thought it did okay. I didn't realize it was like a big success, but because basically when I've been telling people that I'm playing LA Noire, they're like, "Oh, it's terrible."
Yeah.
So I just didn't realize.
I mean, selling copies compared. You mean you bought a copy?
I did buy a copy, to be fair,
and you played it for a couple hours. So I mean, like that, that's maybe there's a lot of people that did that. But I do really think back in the day, like the city and like the facial tech was kind of enough for it to be notable. And and as you say, like there was good acting, good voice work, and then there's other things I like it does some really smart things with, like, I really like, there's a lot of times when you'd like arrive at a crime scene and someone would like look at you and just talk to you, but not in a cutscene. Like, they do a lot of like people talking to you in world. Like, you'd show up in the police station, they'd be like, just through here, detective, and like that feels, even by today's standards, like very natural, and like entering and exiting buildings, like interiors and exteriors without loading times, like that isn't even a given today. That's all like super impressive. There's a lot of polish has gone into like a lot of minor details that other kind of more action focused games would kind of skip past because it kind of wouldn't seem as important. Like, there's a lot has gone into the immersion of being in this world. Yeah,
also the fact that they kind of somehow, I wasn't entirely sure how they were doing it, but making signs easier to see that point where you're going in buildings. Like, when you're trying to leave the police station, all the exit signs are like lit up.
Yeah.
When you look at interview room 2, it's like, oh, I can literally just see the sign. Like, it's right in front of me. It's got a light on it. All that stuff was pretty clever. Some of the people talking to you, like in the street, I think they didn't have enough lines. They only had like 8 lines or something. So I heard quite a lot of the same. Like, the only thing stupider than looking at me is talking to me. Like, stuff like that over and over again. But also the interiors were really impressive. Like, obviously, I went into the art gallery. I don't know if you did, but I went in because I thought that's where the clue was. But like, all the paintings were like unique, and like the floor was like shiny with like the reflection. Maybe that was for the update, with it like people fully reflected in windows and everything. And I thought it looked great.
I was always excited about like see, like when you would be like, oh, you're going to like the bowling alley, and I'd be like, oh, that's like, I want to see what a bowling alley looked like in 1940s. Like, I was always interested to see. But I will say, and I know you could say, well, you played on Switch, that's what you get. But like, no, I played an official release of the game that they put out. The interiors with a lot of NPCs, just that was the thing that like killed the frame rate. So like there was I think it was that records place or a library or something, the place where you have to like go on the chandelier and there's like a mini game.
Yeah, the records library,
there's a room I went into which was like an office room where it's just loads of people at desks. I don't think you have to go into it. I was taking a wrong turn trying to get up to the chandelier, and they modeled this whole room and it looked really cool, but the frame rate were like, it must have been like under 20 FPS. It was like and it's obviously the frame rate matches with like running speed, so he's like running in slow motion, and it was awful, and there was no, it's not like I was getting shot at in that scene. It didn't matter like too much, but like that was a constant thing. So that was mostly in interior environments with like, or anywhere with lots of NPCs. Like the Switch can't handle playing this game. Like, if there's anything we've said, we haven't scared you away and you are still interested, like, I would really suggest avoiding that version of the game. Like, I think it is bad. And I looked up what people were saying before I played it, and they were saying about like the frame rate drops, like, so I was prepared for it, but I think they didn't ring that bell loud enough to scare me away. Like, I thought like it'd be a worthy trade-off. Like, I wish I played it on the Steam Deck or on a home console
or on a VR headset, as there is a VR version.
There is a VR version of it.
Have you seen the video of it? It's just Cole dancing.
Is that in the mirror?
Yeah.
I have seen that. That's great.
That makes me like Cole more than anything in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Did we get any questions come in from the community?
We did get a couple. WeFroom229 on YouTube says, do you think this game should get a remake or a sequel?
I mean, should's kind of a weird word with that, as if I think that I don't think it should get a remake. I think if you're going to try to do this, you do it again. Like, I think you would have to do a sequel. But at that point, I think it doesn't need to be LA Noire. I would like to see someone try and tackle an open world detective game in like as a period piece. Like, I think that could be redone. Like, I don't think there's anything to do with the story or the characters that is good enough that it's worth it needing to bother being a sequel. It might as well take inspirations from the thing that works, but just make something new.
Yeah. That actually, spiritual successor. Yeah, spiritual successor leads me on nicely to comment from Adam OY6NC on YouTube that says, how does this shape up against its spiritual successor, the breakout hit Detective Pikachu?
I had more fun playing Detective
There
Pikachu.
you go. I knew you were going to say that. I mean,
it's the truth.
I've not played it. I've not played Detective Pikachu. I'd like to, but
They're pretty good. They are unbelievable. It looks better than LA Noire on the 3DS. Like, look at the graphics of like the Detective Pikachu games, like and like the cutscenes. Like those games look amazing. Yeah, they're pretty good. The Detective Pikachu games.
I have quite an extreme opinion. WeFreem229 is not aimed at you. You asked a perfectly innocent question about whether or not it should get a remake or a sequel. Perfectly valid question to ask. I disliked this game so much that I think it's literally like poison, and everything associated with it is poison. And I would be happy if it was just scrubbed from history and we never had to see it or see anything about it ever again. There's not a single element other than the fact the city is reasonable. Well, it's very accurate, very impressive. Other than that, it's just like the development was horrible. People got screwed over. The characters are horrible. The story is horrible. The fact that all the women are nude, mutilated women, like it's just a disgusting, poisonous game. And I would be happy to never see it ever again. That is my extreme. That's just my opinion.
Let's not put it on a list that we look at all the time. Yes, constantly see it then.
Yeah, that's my overall takeaway from this experience. So there we go.
Okay.
Strong. I know it was strong, but I truly mean it. I truly mean that.
No, like I absolutely, I agree with it. As I said, I've literally got a note that says, I hate the main character so much. Then underneath that, obviously I carried on. They are both awful. They're obviously talking about the partner. It's probably the first partner before even the worst one. And then just another note that just says, stop shouting. Yeah. That's literally, I have those notes back to back.
Yeah. Right. Well, I suppose we should put it on the list.
Yep, let's put it on the list. Okay, so LA Noire is going to be the 59th entry onto our list. We haven't kind of spoken about it in a while, but are you happy with the list as it's standing right now, or has there been any little niggles that you feel like now would be a good time to bring up?
Baldur's Gate stressing me out in real life. Don't think it's the fault of the game, but I've still been playing. I'm obviously still playing. I'm 30 hours in. It is getting quite... I feel like I'm hitting the skill ceiling, but it's still at number one for me. It's still amazing.
You had to... get the help from Kai and myself to jump in your game to get you faster. But to be fair, so we realized from jumping. So actually, I guess I mentioned we finished Baldur's Gate 3, and the ending is amazing. So I'm super. Like
I'm still number one. I'm still number one.
That locked it in even higher for me finishing the game. Yeah. But so that I did notice, because we jumped into your game, as you were like super underleveled for the fight you were trying to do. Like you were level 6 going up against like level 10 enemies and going like, oh, it's too difficult. And it's like, well, you're underleveled. And then we went to like the area like before where you were, and you had like filled in like a sliver in the middle of the map and just kind of completely not explored the whole area.
In my defense, that particular area is the only one that's like that because I thought that was the only thing there. We're talking about the Grimforge. Because you kind of get a boat.
Underdark, I think it's
the
called.
Underdark. No, yeah, but you get a boat to this specific area, don't you?
Yeah.
So I thought that I was getting a boat to a boss fight, and then I was like just kind of done with it. I didn't realize it was a whole area. But, since then, I have been running around.
Because I was like, looked at your map, I was like, oh, you got like loads of. Because I was like, I don't want Ollie to think, oh, he has to go around and just kill enemies to grind. And so I looked at the map, I was like, oh, like you got loads to explore, and you were like, oh, where? And I was like, looking, I was like, literally an entire circle around where you are has been unexplored.
I'm still enjoying it. I'm still going to play it. It's just stressful playing it. I'm playing with someone that doesn't play video games, and I'm having to basically do two characters, and I'm not familiar with the game either, so I'm like having to guess. Like it's... And the things that we're struggling with are beyond my partner's comprehension because they don't play games. I can't speak to them in gamer lingo. They don't understand what party composition is. It's like it's just like I've hit the wall, but I'm going to carry on and I'm going to finish it because it's still number one.
Okay. And anytime you want any help or just for fun, like tag us in. Like I had really good fun joining in and helping you for that fight and being a new character. So if that helps take the burden away a little bit, then maybe we can jump in. I'd be totally up for doing that because like your story's going to be different to mine. Like we won't even say anything in the cutscenes. We'll just watch the way it plays out and how it's different. And I'd say our ending, like, I can't wait till Ollie finishes it. We'll probably talk about it on Extra Credit, our other podcast, because our ending was like insane. Like the thing that we have of very specific things with certain characters that you would not expect. Like I'm desperate to talk to you about it. So get a move on so I can.
Man, I'm ways off yet. The other thing is I've been carrying on with Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and I would say it's got infinitely better. And if I was to list it now, I haven't finished it, but if I was to list it where I am now, which is chapter 10 of 16, I would probably put it between 8 and 9. It would.
That is a huge jump. So it's currently at 16 for
and I was fine with it being at 16 at the time. If you remember, I was like, yeah, that's. I said 15, but I was like 16, whatever. That's fine. But it is got a lot.
Okay,
better.
shall we? Maybe in a future episode when we're doing a smaller game, once you're finished it, do you want to try and sell it to me? And depending on how well you sell it to me, like I will agree to move it up a certain amount, because it's unfair me fighting for it to stay there when I've only seen the first 30% of it or whatever. So I feel like I can't fight to not move it up. So it will be down to your argument. So maybe we'll do that in the future.
Nice one. Yeah, I mean, I'm dropping in and out. It's a long game. It's probably going to take me about 50 hours to finish based on how much time I've had and how much is left. So,
okay.
But anyway, we're here to talk about L.A. Noire.
Okay, so it sounds like you don't want top 10. if I can try and read the room,
Don't put all this on me. Don't put this on me. You didn't like it either. Don't put this on me.
Well, can I look at you, because I think you did like it, but you might be lying. But I need to watch you. Actually, just stare at you for 10 seconds. There's a clip that I'm going to put in now of there's this one guy. And I sent you a picture of it. Yeah, he goes is he lying? And he does that face. And I just left it recording for ages because it made me laugh so much. And then ooh, is he lying? I wonder.
He looks like when Kermit does his face. When Kermit
yeah. He answers a question that just quickly sucks a lemon while he's thinking of the next thing to say. Yeah, I mean this is going to be in the dredges. You go first.
Okay, so for me, it would either be very bottom or maybe Beyond Good and Evil. It might be above Beyond Good and Evil. Probably not. I'm 90% sure it would be very bottom of the list.
Okay.
Because Beyond Good and Evil was boring and it didn't really work, but it wasn't horrible. So, in the same way. It was horrible in its own way, but not as horrible as this. So I would easily...
I was wondering whether you were going to end up going around enslaved Harry Potter level, but I'm glad, because I agree with you. I think it should be absolutely bottom of the list. It's weird because we're comparing some of the games that are above it are there because they're technically incompetent and don't run, or the cameras are broken, or whatever, whereas LA Noire has some really high production values, and there's certain individual aspects that you could pull out that are still impressive to this day, but as an entire package it's just a horrible, miserable, nasty game that I did not have fun spending time in that world.
Yeah, I think it's just completely... The thing is weird is we're about to do GTA 5, which from my memory has got some pretty nasty bits in it, but the thing is with LA Noire is that it's completely humorless. There's no human touch or anything to it. It's you're playing something that's made to make you angry.
Yeah.
Engineered to make you angry. So I guess that's it then. I guess it's bottom of the list.
Yeah. Oh man. I did not expect that going in. As I said, I knew that it wasn't considered a masterpiece when I chose it, but I was not prepared for what it ended up being. Just the whole vibe of everything. And then obviously we're talking about GTA 5 in a couple of weeks. That's going to be the next game we do, but I've already started playing it.
Okay.
And I think nothing could set you up to love GTA 5 more than playing LA Noire. Leading up to it, playing them literally I played them back to back.
Yeah.
But obviously, that's Rockstar proper, and compare anything to a Rockstar game, and Rockstar will probably end up looking pretty good, but oh boy, it's gonna be fun. So I guess we could probably use that to transition to talking about some of the other games we got coming up.
Yes, so April 5th is GTA 5 with a guest. Just while we're on GTA 5, is there a certain point that you think is a good stopping point?
I don't. So I played it back in the day, but like when it was released, so I wouldn't know. Like I think it's unlikely we'll finish it. It's a long game, but I think play to a point where you think you either understand the game or if you're just having fun, just carry on playing. I don't think there's an obvious stopping point. I'd say make sure you at least do one heist. I would say say that's a must. Do at least one heist.
I seem to remember when I played before, I got to a bit where I had to steal a like bin lorry or a waste disposal truck if you're American, and for some reason I stopped there. I can't. I think maybe a new Tekken game came out and I put it down and then picked it up again. But anyway, that doesn't matter. April 19th, we are doing Dredge, the horror fishing game, which I'm quite looking forward to. That's available on everything, Switch as well. Then May 3rd, we're doing Portal 2 with a guest, which is very exciting. If you would like to see us play Portal 2, we did actually play through the entirety of the co-op, and it's on the channel somewhere. You have to find it. I can't remember where it is or what it's called, but it's there.
Good luck. That's the first puzzle.
Yeah, good luck. And then May 17th, we don't have anything.
Yeah, and so we're going to be discussing nothingness and putting up
Noire VR.
Yeah, we're going to discuss meditation and put that on the list compared to. We're going to compare all these video games to not playing a video game and see what's better. But no, we kind of mentioned, so we probably will fill it with something, but a lot of people leave comments saying like, you should do this game, or have you ever thought about doing this game? Like we are in the process of thinking of a game to put in that slot. So if you do have any suggestions, whether it's an old game or a recent release, something that is very different to something that we've played, like please don't do anything in any of the same franchises. Don't do sequels. Try and look through our list and what genre or style or developer have we been neglecting? This is your chance to shout about it in the comments, and we'll have a look through, and we will likely end up picking from one of those. Yeah.
Well said. And then, so that's May 17th. Who knows what it's going to be? But then May 27th, we're doing Monument Valley, which is available on your phone, which is where I'm going to be playing it, and also on Steam. So we're going to do a mobile game. Well, that is everything we've got planned. So there we go. Bonus points things. We have put out 2 controller tier lists that are quite popular. So definitely go and check those out. We did PlayStation and Nintendo. And there was actually something else I wanted to do. Sorry, I'm going to have to find it quickly now. Okay, so just very quickly, I wanted to read out a comment we got on our Ridge Racer video, which was the last podcast episode we did. That podcast episode found a new audience, which found people outside of the Bonus Points crew, which is super cool. Obviously, happy everyone found it as well. But if anyone in the Bonus Points crew skipped over that because they thought, I don't really know anything about racing games, someone left a really good comment called Mexter28, and it's quite long, but they ended it by saying, super cool topic today, guys. Racing games can get shrugged off pretty easily, but they drive so much innovation. So all I wanted to highlight that for is that if you're into like game tech, which you might be from watching the LA Noire episode, you should go back and check out the Ridge Racer episode because it's like crazy what the PS1 is doing on that. And I think we
also I hope I hope their wording was intentional.
Oh, what,
that
he's driving innovation?
Drives.
Yeah, of course. Mexter knows what they're doing. Of course. Anyway, I thought that was cool. So go and check that episode out as well.
Yeah, cool. Also, I don't think we did mention it, but I just want to say thank you to all of the community that went over to the Humanity trailer.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's probably worth mentioning that.
Yeah, we did the voiceover for the Humanity on MetaQuest trailer. I will say we're not voice actors, but I think we did an okay job. But go and check it out.
They'll hear if they listen. You don't need to add that qualifier if they watch it.
They'll know. Anyway, it was really fun to be involved in that, and it was a really cool opportunity. And I've always loved Enhance, so it was cool to work with them on that.
And it was nice looking through it was on the official MetaQuest channel, and looking at the comments, and it's all bonus points love from people in the community going over there, a lot of people from the Discord and stuff. So if you're one of those people, thank you. It kind of made us feel good to see that positive support in the comments. I've not gone back to look at it since, so maybe it's turned into the usual internet toxic pile of goo. But for a while, it was lovely because it was just you guys there. So thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I think that's us.
Okay, cool. Brilliant. Thank you all so much for watching. Apologies if LA Noire is your favorite game of all time and you're excited. Looking forward to this. Come back in 2 weeks. We're going to be doing GTA 5 with a guest. But apart from that, thanks for watching or listening, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.